the Federation of Tourism Associations of Nigeria has called for a purposeful leadership within the newly formed Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. President Bola Tinubu had on October 23 made a cabinet reshuffle, during which he merged the Tourism Ministry with Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy Ministry. The cabinet reshuffle, however, led to the sack of Lola Adejohn as the Minister of Tourism. FTAN's national president, Nkedewum Onung, in a statement, expressed shock over the development as he emphasized on the need for a passionate, creative, and purposeful leadership. FTAN, the umbrella body representing private operators in the tourism sector, acknowledged the complexities involved in the merger. The news of the merger and the minister's removal came as a rude shock to FTAN members. However, as tourism operatives and professionals look ahead to what the new merger will yield, most likely, Nigerians are also earnestly waiting for the manifestation of the merger dividends to help grow the country's economy. Joining us now on this show is Otumba Ayo Olumoko, National Deputy President, Institute for Tourism Professionals, ITPM. Good morning, Otumba Olumoko, and thank you for joining us on the morning show.
Good morning, Ruben.
Well, very quickly.
Good morning, Hayo.
Good morning,
Good morning.
What do you make of the merger of the Tourism Ministry with Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy? Do you think that this is in the best interest of the industry, the tourism industry? Do you think tourism should be a standalone engagement considering its value? Or what do you think, really? Do you think this is a decision that should be reversed by the president?
Well, I want to thank you for having me once again. And, well, I think it's a good thing. You know, the merger is good. But because that's what we've been asking for in the industry. You remember that for over 8 years now, we don't really have a ministry for tourism. What we had then was Ministry of Information. If you remember, information, when they had it, even when they went for their retreats, it was at the retreats for all the incoming ministers then. That was when they now added culture to information. And most unfortunately, within the past 8 years, we've not really enjoyed anything that has to do with tourism, because the minister then was focusing more on information, while culture was not dealt with. But culture then was taken to be part of tourism and what have you. Hence, there was nothing for tourism as at that time. Now, sincerely, we've been crying for it, and by God's grace, you know, the ministry was resuscitated. I meant it was resuscitated in the sense that initially when President Ambassador was there, we have the ministry, Federal Ministry of Culture and Tourism that time, where we have High Chief Edem Duke as the minister before, you know, it was collapsed. Now we've been agitating for it, and then we want to say that, you know, President Tinubu had a listening ear, was well advised, and instead of getting one ministry, we got two ministries, you know, which is the Ministry of Arts, you know, Arts, Culture, Creative, and Creative Economy. Now, and we had Ministry of Tourism. But unfortunately, the only two parastatals under tourism then was just NTDA and NIOTO. While we have an array of other parastatals, almost about 10, taken away from tourism and was just dumped, you know, in arts, culture, and creative economy. Now, if I want to say it, why now the long nomenclature by saying Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy? It's too long. What is creative? I think what this government is trying to focus on mainly has to do with the Nollywood people and the arts, entertainment, the musical aspects. I think they are trying to garner on that because, of course, we all know that that is the most volatile departments that are really bringing in money here, especially in the international something. But now the artists are doing things, their things at home. Well, it is most unfortunate that tourism has been merged, with creative economy and the rest.
Well,
but what I'm saying is this.
Sorry to interrupt you. Okay. What exactly are you saying? Are you saying it's a good thing that the tourism ministry, which stands alone in some other countries, has now been submerged, with a long stretch of other responsibilities? Or you are saying that, it was a good thing that, tourism stood alone? We need some clarification in this regard.
The clarification is this. It was a good thing that the tourism, we had it alone. Very good thing. Because we've been seeing a lot of changes. Like the actual minister, we know initially she was not feeling fine. But now she's on top of her game. She's been so daring to us. She's more or less like a family to us. Even though she's not from within the profession. And we know that in the early stage, she was not feeling too well. And of course, if you look at the creation of tourism, she was not properly empowered. She doesn't have office. She doesn't have budget. She doesn't have enabling staff. You understand what I mean?
All right.
But however, since it's been mashed together, I'm saying it is better for us to have tourism, standalone tourism. But since it's been matched together, which is fine, and I'm saying because we still have it, we're still hitting our head and we're still having it. And what I'm saying is just that, like the president of EFTAN have said, there is the need for us to have good leadership. Good leadership that can really engender a lot of things within the tourism sector and then give us a good proposition. Like the minister that was asked to leave, yes. She could have been asked to come as a state minister under the tourism ministry.
All right. Okay, let me come in here. And I like that you talk about, when you talk about art, culture, and creative economy, the impact of Nollywood and the music industry in Nigeria. What some might say is that when it comes to tourism, we haven't had a lot, in that regard. And I know you're the deputy president of the Institute for Tourism Professionals, so maybe you can give us a snapshot. When we talk about tourism, a lot of people would think there's not a lot happening there. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why the president has thought there's not enough work there to justify a separate ministry, especially when we're looking at cutting the cost of governance, streamlining the number of people who are ministers. So maybe it would be great for you to make a case in this regard. When you look at, the potentials in the creative economy in Nollywood, it's very obvious. It's there that there's a gold mine there that needs to be tapped. But in tourism, tell us, what's the gold mine there?
There are a lot of gold mines in tourism. And probably we will be trying to look at what are the components of tourism, because yes. This has been one of the problems that we had in the past. Most of the gains of tourism has always been given to other ministries. Like, Ministry of Industries and what have you. If you look at the rates people are coming in, that is tourism. Tourism is movement of people from one place to the other. Yeah. And then you want to talk about mines. Whenever we're having any conferences and conventions, that is part of tourism. And then, of course, we have the hospitality industry within the tourism. Those are the hotels. We all know how much money hotels are really making and how much money they are putting into this economy. So if we look at that, and then there are other part of it, which is the culture. Because, you can't say you will have culture, tourism at times without having culture.
Yes, sir, but that's where people are talking about duplication of efforts. Like we already have a minister for arts and culture and creative economy. Why then break it down to tourism? Should it then maybe be an agency, just in line, or again, with Like you said, she had only two agencies working under her. So it doesn't justify creating an entire ministry for that. I'm just giving you the platform to make a case for why there should be a separate, because I know that you're saying that it might be affected, it might be subsumed by the ministry if it goes under that ministry, and we'll just forget again about tourism, in Nigeria. So what are some of the things, why is it important? Because if you talk about that, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment can deal with the parts you just talked about. We have a Ministry of Steel Development, Ministry of Solid Minerals. So these are places that it could be seen as a duplication of efforts. What's the justification for having a separate Ministry of Tourism?
Well, the justification is enormous. Why it is enormous is because, like I've said, most of the components of tourism, we also have the travels there. Like most of this airline, even though it's taken away, but it's part of the tourism. And of course, I believe that, well, if tourism can be left alone, we should have some other departments, some other agencies under them in order to really move forward. Of course, like I said, the arts and creative, they are more or less the same thing. So we're not totally saying that we don't want a compressed tourism, a ministry. Yes, it's good if as we have been put together, but we can have something like Ministry of Culture, Creative, Culture, Creative and Tourism. Okay. Because creative and arts, they are more or less the same thing. Okay.
All right. Let's look at the statistics. So in 2023, I believe there were 1.2 million international visitors that came into Nigeria. The tourism sector of this country contributes 3.65% to the GDP. $17.3 billion is what tourism is said to have brought into the Nigerian economy in 2023. In terms of inflow and exchange and so forth. My question is also, given the history that you've given us with how this ministry and this sector sort of have just been kicked around and flung around and doesn't really have any definitive space around it, for something that contributes 3.65% to the nation's GDP, why do you think that tourism has not been prioritized? What are the politics around it? Because one would assume that with such a massive contribution to GDP, there would be value attached to it. So what are the intricacies around?
Well, I believe the intricacies around it is, in fact, the percentage we are talking about, I believe tourism is doing more than that. We're doing more than that. Because this is the problem we've always had with the Bureau of Statistics and the perception of people. People are always thinking that, for tourism, nothing is coming in from there. And the way they do the calculation, they are always just mobile up things and then you just give us statistics that are not really workable. So I want to believe that, giving the right leadership, if we give the right leadership and the ministry is given the opportunity to generate its own fund, we'll have a lot more than that. And the leadership that we're talking about is we want a square peg in square hole. If you look at most of the ministers that we've been having, that have been driving our industries, they are not from within the industry. If you look at the two ministers that we're talking about now, that one is being castigated, we see that the first one is from the IT. Lola is from the IT that has worked in the bank before. Yes. And the second one is also not from within the ministry, from the institution. So we're looking at where we can have, just like we have in Lagos, there are some states that are doing very well. And they can readily tell you that their internally generated revenue is higher. So if you look at what Coca did, Folorunso Coca did, when he was the commissioner, for tourism in Lagos, you see he did very well. That was when all this 7 days program was was established, and we're doing well. Now he's also in Naoto. He's going to conclude his term. I don't know why we cannot have the regular people to be at the regular place so that we will have continuity and then we'll have the benefit. Because changing and bringing people who are not knowledgeable about the profession, they'll just get there. The first 2 years, they are just trying to familiarize themselves with us. And then what you have is people will be saying, we're not doing very well. But if you put in the right people in the right place, we have so many people that can be here. If you look at, let's say, Nanta, look at the president of Nanta, who was immediate past president. You saw what they were doing. Initially, it was Nigeria that used to go to WTM, in England. But the Nanta have to take it upon themselves to ensure that Nigeria is well represented. Who did that? The president and his other officers. We have such people that are here who are part of the capability, the eggheads that we have that can be used. But you see, probably most of us are not politicians. But if you look at the history, if you look at during Obasanjo's era, that was when they brought in Professor Okonjo Iweala. He was not a professional. We look at Professor Shotimeni. He was not a professional. He was not a politician. You look at Akinwumi. He's not a professional. He's not a politician. But when they were taking, they came in and they did very well. So we have a lot of people who are professionals that can be used, even if they're not in politics. Okay. And one thing with Ashwaju, I know that the president usually look at people that are very good. Like when he was in Lagos State, his first term, he used politicians, but towards the end of his his first time, he brought in a lot of people that are, from international people who are Nigerians, who are Lagosians, to come in and do a lot of stuff. Those are the people that are really working with him now.
Olumoko, as someone who has a strong background in this sector, I don't think tourism should have been merged with art and creative economy, but we can debate that off camera. But the issue is that tourism is on the concurrent list. How developed are our tourism assets in this country? Because you have a country like Spain, some of the countries in Europe, Catalan Islands, they are even complaining about over-tourism. They are saying people should stay in their own countries and not come. They have too many tourists. Yes. But here in Nigeria, we have the assets. What can we do to develop those tourism assets that we have scattered all over Nigeria and nobody is paying attention? It's not something that the federal government alone can do. So what do you think the problem is? Is it security? Is it lack of understanding? Is it lack of resources or investment?
Well, of course, if you're talking about security, you are talking of that. Even in the whole world, everybody have their own security challenges. So does Nigeria. But I think the problem we're actually really having is the understanding of those that govern us. The governors, both at the state level and at the federal level, they're not looking at the fact that there's the need for them to have professionals that will do it. We have so many people that are doing a lot of things on their own. You look at Wanle Akimoboye.
Yes.
He's doing his own thing. Of course, I want to see look at myself. I've been in this industry for the past 25 years. And I think I'm one of the foremost cultural promoters here. We get people to get we get funding to support most of our things. What we need to do is we should be given the enabling environment where the government will allow people that are really invested, in the industry to come up and have the benefits. Like now, there is creative funding. None was that by the federal government. None of it was done for tourism. If we have such...
The minister was there. Why didn't the minister come up with it?
The minister, like I said, the ministry was there on arrival. The minister that does not have an office, who was sharing an office, let's just go into that, because it all has to do with governance. We have people in Nigeria who have really put a lot of money in the tourism and culture industry, but unfortunately we are developing. We're making it, we're developing just like we have a Nollywood and everything, we are developing. You know, and I want to say thank God for COVID-19, because now a lot of people are not traveling out of Nigeria. You know, we have to do a lot of things from home. And of course, some of us that have initiatives, that have products, you know, we're doing it, and we're getting support from corporate organizations. But what is most important is the enabling environment, like a policy. Like we don't have policy. Like Lola was just trying to, he has looked at the top policy that we have, and we have tinkered with this. He has gotten the stakeholders to look at one or two things to make contribution. By the 30th of this October, we're to have a stakeholders meeting in Lagos to finalize that. So what I'm saying in essence is that there is the need for government to give us enabling environment, not in terms of what is happening in the petroleum industry now, where people are saying they should give them money to go and buy their fuel and sell to us. Now we are knowing the cabal, but let's go into that. For us, we are people that have really invested, and all we need to get the government to do, especially in the state, is to develop, personally develop the tourism potentials in their states.
Well,
awesome. Thank
Otumba Olumoko, I would like to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Thank you for your insight.